I, 21F, was in a very bad car accident about 3 years ago. A drunk driver ran a stoplight, cut off a semi-truck, which then crashed into me, sending me crashing into two different cars and then ultimately into an embankment. My car was mangled and my leg was crushed, completely destroyed, and it had to be amputated. I also lost a couple fingers, the tip of one and all of another. I'm also left with some gnarly scars that used to bother me, but I'm learning to deal with them. I got a couple different insurance payouts and some pain and suffering money in addition to my medical bills being paid, and with my money I purchased a custom-made leg to take the place of the one I lost. When I have pants and shoes on you can hardly tell unless you're really looking. I still limp, but some days I don't have as pronounced a limp. Earlier today I went to the store with my boyfriend, my sister, her girlfriend, and our mother. I drove. I had to learn to drive with my left foot, but I'm really good at it now. I also bought a new car with my money and had to go through a ton of therapy to get past my PTSD, but I'm doing well there now as well. So, I drove us, and because of my injuries, in addition to my leg, I also have chronic hip, neck, and back pain, and some issues with my lungs from the time spent intubated in a medically induced coma that led to pneumonia. I have a handicap placard for my car. I have trouble walking without getting tired, so it really helps to park close to the door. Today I did so and unknowingly took the space from someone who was circling back around for it. Apparently the man had been looking for a close space and had missed the one I took and went down and around. He was still on the other aisle when I pulled in, so I didn't cut him off or anything and had no way of knowing he wanted the spot. He parked in the yellow stripe zone and got out and immediately began confronting me about stealing a space from people who actually need it, how I'm just some kid who has no respect for those who are truly sick and suffering. He then ordered me to move. My group was urging me to just walk away, but this has happened before and once the police were even called. I'm sick of people thinking that just because I'm young that I don't have legit need for a little extra consideration. I said okay, and went to the car and got in like I was going to drive off. I was wearing a skirt and leggings, so it wasn't quite obvious at first, but when I sat down I took my leg off and showed it to the man, including my stump. I then asked him if it was okay if I still parked there. He walked away calling me disgusting and rude and said I could have just told him and I made him look stupid. My group was embarrassed and said that I made things awkward because there was a crowd. Ada? Edit: in case anyone was interested, I'm not going to post a photo of my leg because of identification reasons, but I'll describe it. So the base color is amber whitish green to pale green and it has cherry blossoms painted on it, though sometimes I wear a silicone cover that resembles an actual foot and leg on days when I don't want people to stare at me. I even have temporary stickies I can put on the toes to make it look like I painted my nails. It's actually really cool. We, me 27, him 30, together for 3, married for 2 months. So here's a thing, I used to use pads for my periods but recently was able to start using tampons. I have medical problems. In comparison, tampons work 10x better for me, especially when I'm outside. Say like at work or traveling. My husband Ryan hates them. He never truly gave a reason other than just say he doesn't feel comfortable with me using them. I didn't think it was a big deal at first since he said he hates a lot of stuff that I do but puts up with it anyway except for this. He asked that I go back to using pads, but I made it clear since it's my body then I get to decide. He threw away some tampons he had access to, and I was getting upset, but to keep the peace, I just bought a box and hid it away from him. He somehow found it and threw it away. I didn't find that out till I had my period yesterday and realized I had no tampons to use. I was tired, and too stressed. I just yelled at him after he admitted to throwing away the whole box. He argued that I already knew how he felt about this stuff and yet I decided to still keep it around. I lost it and told him he had no right to do this and told him to get over himself already. He stared at me almost about to tear up or something, then walked out. He later went on about how we, as a couple, should take each other's discomfort into consideration and said he already tried to speak to me about those tampons yet I brushed him off and insulted him and verbally abused him. He also said that if I still insist on using them then I should do it while I'm outside the house, but I said that it won't happen. I feel bad for how it played out, but I was just at my wit's end and in so much pain I lashed out. Did I go too far here? Does he have a valid point or not? Even though I, 23F, am American, my parents are immigrants and therefore I have a different cultural upbringing than most. One thing that was hammered into my head from a young age was to always bring a small gift when visiting anyone's house. It doesn't matter if it's family or friends or that one person you kind of know but don't really like, bringing something is a must. My BF, 28 meters, and I have been dating for almost 4 years now, and since we both work from home he suggested we make dinner with his parents, a weekly thing since we haven't been able to see each other much for obvious reasons. I love his parents, so obviously I agreed. Every week I made sure to bring something small to show my appreciation for them cooking for us, always using my own money, a small bottle of wine, their favorite dessert, some flowers, etc., and they always thanked me for it. This has been going on for a few months and absolutely didn't notice anything out of the ordinary until yesterday when my BF and I were preparing to head over. I'd gotten a cute vase of daffodils since luckily I'd found some in bloom and my BF's mom really loves them. But my BF suddenly got really mad and asked why I kept bringing stuff over every week like his parents were a charity case. Honestly, I got super confused and asked him what the problem was and that I've always done this with everyone including his friends since we met. That it was a cultural thing, but then he got even madder and told me to stop imposing my culture on everyone and it's weird since I'm white. At that point I didn't feel like going anywhere with him and just gave him the flowers and went for a walk while he drove over to dinner by himself. After he came home he still had the flowers which he gave to me and told me he was sorry, but his parents really were super annoyed with me constantly bringing stuff over like they can't take care of themselves. And later on I got a text from his dad asking me to not come over for dinner anymore. Now my BF's giving me the cold shoulder unless I give his parents a huge apology, but I really, truly don't feel like I'm in the wrong for trying to be nice to them. Ada? Quick edit: I didn't realize you could edit posts directly, but I'm in a hurry to convince him to let me go over to his parents' house. I did post a brief update in fact in my most recent comment. Throwaway account. My wife, Irene, is very fit. She likes working out and has a proper exercise regime, etc. She believes that if she feels good she looks good, and she feels good working out, so who am I to stop her? My brother, Will, spent the latter half of last year going through a messy divorce and now needs a place to stay. Though my brother and I aren't very close, I figured he would only stay with us for a couple weeks until he got back on his feet. Will is a typical gym rat. He's always on a very strict diet, always working out and bragging about his gains. I've worked out with him a few times and he's a little obnoxious. He's always mad at you if you don't work at his pace and is always trying to correct your form. He's a pretty fit and muscular guy, but I don't like to exercise with him. Will has been pushing Irene to work out with him because, according to him, she won't be able to keep up with him. Irene mostly just shrugs him off with a laugh and tells him she would love to work out with him. Irene works out in the mornings, 3 times a week, and then does a run in the evening, but she's been busy this past week and hasn't been able to stick to her usual schedule. Will thinks that she's making excuses because she doesn't want to be embarrassed by him. Again, Irene just laughs him off. About 2 days ago, Irene and Will went on an early morning run. I didn't go with them, but the first thing I heard when Will entered the house was, "The only reason I couldn't keep up with you, Irene, is because you were sweating too much." I found this extremely comical, and kinda just laughed him off. Irene rolled her eyes and went to take a shower, so I thought that the conversation would die. However, Will just kept bringing up my wife's sweat. My wife went to work and he told her to make sure she doesn't sweat through her clothes, or when she called me in the middle of day, he yelled, "Tell the sweaty bitch I said hi." Of course, the bitch comment aggravated me and I told him to knock it off and stop acting like a child. I thought that was the end of it, but he just kept going. By the end of the day, I was tired of his comments, but Irene seemed rather unfazed by them. When she served him food, he made a comment about her sweating into the food. At this point, I was at my wit's end and I told him to stop acting like a slow, referring to his running pace, loser, and eat his food. Will, of course, got angry, and said the only reason he was going slower than usual was because he was distracted by my wife's unhygienic sweat. Irene looked a bit offended by this, and I told Will that I would kick him out if he made another comment like that. He's been super pissed ever since. I jokingly told this story to a mutual friend and they agreed with Will. Maybe I shouldn't be so harsh. Update: I didn't expect this amount of responses. Thank you for all the advice. I've decided to kick him out. He will be staying at a nearby hotel now. I'm 16M, and I love my mom, 35. But when I was 10 she had an affair and left us. I visited her as often as I could and she always seemed so happy when I was there, but I hated her new family so I stopped visiting. Honestly, we rarely ever saw each other after, just for my birthday and events really. She wants us to be close but I want nothing to do with her new husband so I've kept my distance. Except on February 20th my dad announced he'd be out on business till the 12th and my grandparents are stuck visiting relatives in Italy and so I really had nowhere to go and my mom jumped at the chance to have me stay with her. And just my luck that my mom's anniversary with her husband was on Sunday. I haven't had a good time here at all so all I do is stay in my room doing homework or go out with friends to avoid family activities cause it sucks seeing how lovey-dovey she is with her husband and how they seem like the perfect family with their daughters. The morning before her anniversary day she came to my bed and tried to cuddle with me like before she left us, but it made me angry like we can't go back in time and pretend it's how it was. So I just pretended to be asleep and stayed curled up and frozen till she left. I started crying cause of that and I felt angry and snarky and my mom majored in literature so I got her a copy of Anna Karenina for her anniversary. That book's about a lady who leaves her husband and son for her lover. I've never read it but I watched the movie with my girlfriend and I hated it. The anniversary party was on Sunday. Everyone was having fun but me and then people gave their gifts. I gave mine and when my mom saw what it was she seemed shocked but just said thanks. The party ended like an hour after. But at night when she was in her room I heard her crying really loudly. So I kinda eavesdropped a little and heard her saying stuff about that book and me and her husband trying to calm her. The next day at breakfast she left for work early before I woke up and her husband straight up called me an asshole and other stuff for gifting them that. It's been a few days now and my mom has barely talked to me. Honestly I feel so wrong I made my mom cry but at the same time I don't want to be here and she knows that so am I really the asshole? Edit. Thankfully the mods have locked this. But to everyone who keeps DMing me here's some facts to read before you do. I gave my mom the book to try and get it across to her that I hate being at her house and being around her family and that it hurts me to be there because I sympathized with the son from the movie not because I want a train to run her over. I do not want that to happen to my mom. I do not want my dad to get back together with my mom. He's happy with his fiancée. My dad has his reasons for not wanting me to go to therapy and is just being protective. Yes, I stopped visiting my mom cause I hate her husband but she had custody of me on weekends or breaks she could have forced me to be with her but since being with him or making him be with us whenever I did go to her was more important she never tried anything beyond the bare minimum of going to big events.